Hello and welcome to the second part of this adding water drops to your flower close-ups tutorial. Now that you've got a whole series of water drops on the foreground petal, what we need to do is flatten all of those down onto one layer so that we can start to apply a few effects. So to do this, just click on the bottom layer, not including the background layer with the actual flower on it. Scroll to the top of all of your water droplets, hold down Shift and just left click with the mouse just to select all of those. Then go over to your layer palette options and just click Merge Layers, and that'll merge all of those water droplets down into that one layer. So if we switch those off and back on, we can just see how those overlay that petal image. Now that we've done that, we're going to switch the blending mode of the layer to overlay, and that'll give it the transparency to replicate a realistic water droplet. So click on the blending modes and we'll just select overlay, and you'll instantly see those water droplets become transparent. So now we do the clever bit, adding the effect to really get that realistic look to the water droplets. And to do this, we're going to start off by just duplicating the background layer. Now we have to do this because we're going to apply the effect in two steps. So click the water droplet layer, drag and drop that onto the new layer icon, and we now have two water droplet layers. Just going to switch off that top one and go back to the first water droplet layer and start to apply the first of the effects. We're just going to click on the effects palette over on the right, make sure that we've got our layer styles selected. From our drop down, we're just going to select drop shadows. Now there's a series of 8 different effects that you can, or drop shadow effects that you can apply. We're going to select low, just click apply, and you'll instantly see that apply itself to the first water droplet layer. Now to make adjustments to the water droplet layer, go down to the layer palette and you'll see a little FX symbol over on the right hand side. Just double click this to open, and the first thing we want to do is just adjust the angle, and if you just get hold of the dial, we can move that round to about 140, and you can actually just type that directly in, and you'll just see that the water droplet is now, or the shadow for the water droplet is just over on the right hand side. Now we've done that, we just want to reduce the size to about 5, which starts to stop it looking like the water droplets are actually floating above the petal. We're going to reduce the distance down to about 6. And finally, the opacity, we'll take that right down to about 35. So the effect of those drop shadows is quite subtle. With that done, we'll just click OK to apply that. And then we'll click back onto our water droplet copy layer. Just switch the visibility of that layer back on. Then what we're going to do now is just apply a inner drop shadow. So again, click onto the layer styles, the drop down, select inner shadow, and again the second option in is a low inner shadow, and we're just going to click apply to apply that to that top layer. Now as you see, that's actually a little bit over the top, and this is the reason that we have two water droplet layers, because we can now just reduce the opacity of that layer just to pull back a little bit of the intensity of that drop shadow. So we're going to reduce it right down to about 30, so the result is quite subtle, but will still be much more realistic than without. So if I just click the visibility off and back on, and you can really see how that affects the image. Right, with that done, what we now need to do is get rid of the uniformity of all of those droplets. So we want to actually apply a little bit of a wave effect to those two layers, just to get that really realistic water look. So again, if we go up to filter, this time down to distort and down to wave, and we're just going to apply a wave effect, and the number of generators that we want is just 1. We're going to change our wavelength to 1 to about 288, our amplitude 1 to about 160, and finally our scale we're going to go to about 20%. Now when you're doing this yourself, do have a play around with the wave, the number of generators, the wavelengths, amplitude and scale, and you'll find that you get very different results depending on the values you type into each of those boxes. So just as a example, we'll use this and just click OK to apply that. That'll instantly apply it to our top water droplet layer. Now we also want to apply that to the other water droplet layer. So if we just click on the bottom water droplet layer in the layers palette, go up to filter, and then we'll just select wave, or you can just shortcut that with Control F on your keyboard, and it'll apply exactly the same settings and effect to that bottom layer. So there you see we've got a much more realistic water droplet look to our picture, and now all we need to do is just flatten those down onto the background layer. So if I just select those two and the background layer, just go Control E, or you can do it from the palette options, and that'll flatten those water droplets down onto the image layer. Now if I zoom out, we can see we've got quite a realistic water effect on that first petal. So once we've finished all of the water droplets for that first petal, we just repeat the process for the other petals. So it is a little bit time consuming, but you can get some great results. So after I've done the other petals, I'll go to the after shot, and we can see how effective that is. So that's how to add water droplets to a close-up flower shot.